It is Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We'll be here with you for the next couple of hours from the Lee Company Studios here in Columbia, talking about local, regional, and national sports. It's going to be a lot of fun. Trust me, it is. In the next hour, called Chip to confirm his Tuesday appearance. Chip says, I'll be on a bus at 3 o'clock. I guess they're headed to their ball game. They've got Jacksonville State tomorrow.
No private driver for Chip.
Shocking.
I'm floored by that development. He has joined us on bus before, but, I figured for football he would, make something happen.
Well, I think, between here and Jacksonville, Wi-Fi is probably a little iffy, and so this might be a better safe than sorry. What is it? There's a phrase that I'm thinking of here, but I can't pull it up. But anyway, in lieu of Chip Walters' typical Tuesday appearance, we will be joined by Mike Patton talking a little Tennessee State football, and plenty of reason to talk Tennessee State football right now. So again, Mike Patton will be with us at the top of the hour. In the next segment, we'll be joined by John Glennon of the Nashville Post talking little Tennessee Titans. They are still trying out tackles.
Revolving door over there.
Literally.
Man, it seems
on the practice field and on the game field.
Golly, it's tough. And they've come a little bit of ways, but they still got a long ways to go. Right tackle, and a big issue.
Who was it that we talked to that said that the Titans' offensive line has been the youngest offensive line in the NFL, or one of the youngest offensive lines in the NFL? I mean, I guess the good thing is that they've got nowhere to go but up. But the bad thing is they've got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, and a couple weeks ago when we mentioned it was their first game without a sack in multiple seasons, you were thinking, oh, okay, sign of things to come in the positive direction, but it has been rough, a rough go to say the least for that OL.
Yeah, but we'll be talking to John Glennon of the Nashville Post in the next segment about that. Also talking a little NFL. We had a little double-barreled action last night, and both games were intriguing in their own way.
Yes, that is the best way to put it. Kind of like what you said on the show yesterday. One is going to be more aesthetically pleasing than the other. Although Ravens-Bucks game, there was a lot of sad.
I'm not sure how aesthetically pleasing or how aesthetically pleased Tampa Bay was with that one.
Man, sometimes a loss feels like more than a loss, and that was one that, is going to look back, and we'll see if that defines their season, because man, that could be a real bad one right there for them.
Adding injury to insult.
Yes.
Again, we will be talking to Mike Patton in the second hour. We'll also kind of jump into the grab bag in the second hour. Hoops is here. The NBA regular season opens tonight with a couple of matchups, and one of which rings will be presented. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's some WNBA news, even though their season concluded on Sunday night. We've got some college football notes to touch on. And again, it is Top 5 Tuesday. Wade and I will bring you our Top 5 crowd moments. I'll let you guess where we got that idea. We'll clear it up for you in the final segment, though. But yeah, Top 5 crowd moments will be the discussion in the final segment of the show. So again, looking forward to this Top 5 Tuesday. Let's go ahead and get into it with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Kick off the rundown with results from Monday Night Football, and the schedule will be lengthy tonight, but the rundown is brief. NFL action from last night. The Ravens, wild game, but they do win it 41-31 versus Tampa Bay as Derrick Henry gets going in the second half, and the Ravens run roughshod on the Bucs. More on them later. As Mo mentioned, second game, not for the faint of heart. A game that really should have been played on Thursday, but Arizona boots a field goal late. I mean, with no time remaining, and they walk it off versus the Chargers. 17-15 was that final. Those were your two Monday Night Football scores, and those were the only scores in our area.
High school volleyball action today. These are all state tournament matchups. We had Valor Collegiate and Crockett County play at 9:30. Also, Blackman and Nolensville played at 9:30. I'm assuming those are done. 12 o'clock starts for Soddy Daisy and Creekwood, as well as East Robertson and Summertown. At least one of those is done. At 5 o'clock, we will have Brentwood and Collierville, and Chattanooga School of the Arts and Sciences, CSAS, for the uninitiated, will be facing Loretto at 5 o'clock. You got any scores over there?
Yeah, let's go to the scoreboard real quick. I do know that East Robertson defeated Summertown 3-1. Our good buddy David Wilson was on the scene tossing us updates there. Creekwood defeated Soddy Daisy 3-0. Other scores coming in today. We also have Nolensville, a 3-0 winner versus Blackman, and Houston was a 3-0 winner versus Farragut as state tournament play rolls on. And
you got a Valor Collegiate Crockett County score?
Valor Collegiate with a shutout. They win at 3-1 versus Crockett County, 3-0, versus Crockett County. So a lot of sweeps in this opening round as we kind of get ready to move into the afternoon, the evening slate, and then get ready. Some of these teams will be going home tomorrow.
Absolutely. National Hockey League action at Bridgestone Arena. This is a 7:45 puck drop as the Bruins take on the host Nashville Predators. The hosts looking for their first win in 6 outings tonight. You can see it on FanDuel Sports South, not Valley Sports South. We'll be talking more about that later in the show as well. At any rate, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m., as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. The season was quite unsettled for the Nashville Cats of the Arena Football League, and apparently the offseason is no less unsettled, as the Cats are going to court. Local entrepreneur Chuck McDowell, according to a report at NashvilleBanner.com, has, as alleged by the Nashville Cats, failed to make good on a $2.5 million payment to become a partner in the ownership group. Now, again, alleged. We're not saying this. The Nashville Banner isn't saying this. The Nashville Cats are saying Chuck McDowell owes them $2.5 million and has not paid it. And so they are taking him to court for that. Again, a rough season for the Cats, a rough season for the Arena Football League. The Cats did advance to the league semifinals before bowing out, but man, it was a rough road to get there. Last March, or March of 2024, according to the complaint filed in Davidson County Chancery Court last week, McDowell agreed to buy in as the largest individual stakeholder of the team, but has since refused to make his payments in, quote, an attempt to gain leverage in buyout negotiations. How's somebody going to buy you out if you ain't bought in?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, a lot of posturing going on, you know, and we want to see where that money's at, right? And doesn't sound like the money has been shown.
Yeah, the Cats said, show me the money, and Chuck apparently said no.
Yeah, so, you know, respect the hustle, you know, trying to leverage some fake money into some real money, as it were.
We've seen this before.
But the receipts were demanded, and it sounds like the Cats were unable to receive those. So they said, you know, we'll have our day in court. And, yeah, this is kind of ugly situation for what was already been, a shaky franchise and shaky league to date.
McDowell Ventures LLC agreed to pay Nashville Arena Sports (NAS) $1 million on September 15, 2024, and the remaining payments in 25 and 26, according to the complaint. McDowell Ventures LLC failed to pay NAS $1 million. Excuse me, extra set of zeros there. Failed to pay Nashville Arena Sports $1 million on September 24. To date, McDowell Ventures LLC has still not paid NAS the amount due under the promissory note. Filed with the complaint was an exhibit of a promissory note that shows McDowell agreed to pay $2.5 million over 2 years. A month after the September 15th due date, a first payment has still not been made. McDowell Ventures and Mr. McDowell deny any and all wrongdoing and will be vigorously defending this meritless complaint and pursuing claims against the plaintiff and any other culpable parties, McDowell Ventures said in a statement to the Banner. I don't understand. Either you paid it or you didn't.
Paid it or you didn't, or I don't know what your defense is here.
The check is in the mail?
Other than just posturing, and just trying to weasel out of some situation. This is weird, right? It's like you either got the money or you don't, and it's like, well, where is the money? And we kind of sit here, everybody scratching their heads, and just meanwhile, the public perception just kind of gets a little worse for both parties in this situation.
Meanwhile, the Arena Football League has become Arena Football 1. And the 2025 Arena Football 1 season will take place, but they don't know when. League CEO Jeff Kurz said last month that the league would expand to 12 teams, which they started with 8 last year, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Finished with less. So, I mean, again, a shaky situation, but according to Kurz, the 12-team schedule for 2025 will be released in mid-October. Mid-October. This is October 22nd.
Yeah, we're a little bit beyond that marker there.
I'm not sure what the definition of mid-October is, but I don't think it's October 22nd. Meanwhile, this won't be McDowell's first rodeo in terms of going to court. In May 2023, the Court of Appeals affirmed a trial court decision to award a former employee of Wesley Financial Group, I'm reading from NashvilleBanner.com, by the way, which McDowell founded, damages for breach of contract, unjust enrichment, and retaliatory discharge claims. Additionally, Wesley Financial Group recently settled a long and contentious litigation with Westgate Resorts over Wesley's efforts to help timeshare owners get out of their contracts. Wesley dismissed its case earlier this month, which alleged antitrust violations. So we will see you in court, specifically in the Davidson County Chancery Court, apparently, as the Nashville Cats and Chuck McDowell will tee it up.
Yeah, not necessarily the battle in court that we anticipated hitting the docket here, but here we are. And I mean, there's more to this story, I think, that meets the eye, and I don't know who that favors. I don't know if that's the Cats, had a shaky deal that maybe they're trying to leverage themselves, or I don't know if McDowell himself made a shaky deal and he's trying to potentially leverage. But the fact, that he was trying to potentially gobble up some other potential ownership partners without really having the money, I mean, it just seems a little sus on his end.
That's a great way to put it. Sus.
I mean, it just seems that way.
Yeah. I mean, again, either you're going to pay the money or you have, or you're not. Either you have paid the money or you haven't. If you haven't, but you intend to, go ahead.
Yeah, what are we waiting on at this point?
Yeah. So, it does seem kind of sus. it's definitely kind of interesting, and it's gonna get more so. So,
so the question also is, what happens to number one? Obviously, it seems like he would be removed at that point. Where does that money come from then?
Because you kind of need that money, you would think.
This doesn't seem like a franchise that can weather a ton of storms financially. So even $1 million being shy is potentially,
let alone 2.5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're sitting here, wondering if the league is even going to have a season, let alone if this franchise is going to make it. And they did kind of stabilize as a league when Fisher kind of swapped over more so of the co-owner of the Cats role into the commissioner role. But they still got a lot of issues, it seems like, if they're going to really put things together after, playing in a shopping mall for their championship last year.
Arena Football One LLC, headed by Kurz and Commissioner Jeff Fisher, is based in Nashville, by the way. So I guess that's owing to the location of the commissioner.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of the hub for the league in many regards. And so the fact that this one of your presumed cornerstone franchises is kind of in some murky waters, that's not good.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Meanwhile, let's take a break from the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will chat with John Glennon of the Nashville Post regarding the Tennessee Titans coming out of this weekend's trip to Buffalo and heading into this week's matchup with the Detroit Lions. Stay tuned. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back to Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton along with Wade Neely, and we are now joined by John Glennon of the Nashville Post, who covers the Tennessee Titans as well as the Nashville Predators for that publication. Will you be at Bridgestone tonight, John?
I'm uncertain. I got a few things to do, so that's a TBD, a game time decision.
Game time decision. Okay, I get that. You got to be careful though, because you might miss the first win.
It could happen. It's just crazy enough to happen. You know, I'm kind of intrigued tonight. They did the Preds did go ahead and call up an interesting prospect, first round pick from a few years ago, a guy named Zachary LaRue. And he's intriguing because I suspect he'll make a quick impression. Plays with a real edge, gets under the skin of opponents. A very sandpaper sort of style. So, I think if the Preds are looking for someone to bring a little energy, stir things up a little bit, he'll be a nice addition. And as you said, perhaps after 5 straight losses to start the season, maybe they will go ahead and win one game here.
There we go.
Nice.
Speaking of winning a game, the Titans did not this past weekend. Put themselves in pretty good position early on to do so at Buffalo, but could not quite maintain the momentum or hold off Buffalo. I mean, for the first time this season, the defense kind of looked a little sus, as Wade would say.
The kids love sus, don't they?
Yeah. So do I. I think it's kind of cool, but
it's solid. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. They did look a little sus. It was quite an opening 30 minutes, for the Titans. They got out to that 10-0 lead. I thought Mason Rudolph looked sharp. He looked efficient. I think he was 11 for 15 for 155 yards and a TD in the first half. And all of a sudden you're thinking, hey, we're going to have a quarterback controversy in our hands when Will Levis is healthy, because Mason Rudolph has just put together 2 pretty impressive quarters.
mm-hmm.
Everything went south in the second half, unfortunately for the Titans. Offensively, I thought they got themselves in a lot of bad third down situations. They're on 5 of their 8 third down attempts in the second half. They were facing 3rd and 8 or longer. Not such a good thing. Running game all of a sudden stalled, so that was not a good compliment to the passing game. And all of a sudden there was all sorts of pressure on the passing game. But yeah, I think the biggest surprise was the Titans defense that was ranked number 1 coming into the game. In fact, actually still is overall ranked number 1. But really took it on the chin from Josh Allen and company there in the second half. And I think there was a little bit of an idea that the cornerbacks, that they were without L'Jarius Sneed, without Chidobe Awuzie, the other outside starter, and you had Jarvis Brownlee in there. You had Darrell Baker, and those guys got a little bit exposed at times. And there are other times I thought the Bills, set up their the Titans coverage to be exposed. One play that came to mind was the Amari Cooper touchdown that wound up being safety Quandre Diggs, trying to cover Amari Cooper from the slot. Was not a good matchup. Cooper caught a pretty easy touchdown pass, and the Bills just grabbed momentum as soon as that failed fourth down attempt, ill-fated fourth down attempt for the Titans early in the third quarter, and they just never let that momentum go.
Yeah, John, and I'm curious, you and I talked last week about this. Game plan wise, it certainly seemed like Rudolph, you're not going to go out and try and throw. You're not going to actively try and throw 40 passes, but he does end up throwing that many once the game kind of gets away from him. And I'm just curious, after such promise in the running game, the last couple of weeks, kind of where did that momentum go? And is that something that can return? or do we chalk that up to one game? I'm curious just what to make of the running game situation, which is huge right now for them.
Yeah, I think it's been, pretty solid for the most part. I want to say in 4 of the 6 games now, they're up over 130 yards or so. And again, in the first half, we saw things go pretty well there. But the fact that the Titans haven't really developed a deep passing game, which I think everyone figured that Calvin Ridley would kind of bring to the table, which has not been the case so far. I don't think that the Titans are, or I don't think the Titans opponents are really respecting the deep passing game and are kind of playing closer to the box, more people in the box, and it's not gone well. It didn't go well in that second half as a result for the Titans running game. And again, I think they've been running pretty well for the left side for the most part, but behind a couple of first round picks, Latham and Skoronski. But the right side has been an issue, as we know, in both the run game and especially right tackle and pass protection as well. But I still think, and it's a little bit strange to say, that this Titans team still kind of hangs its hat offensively on the running game. And we certainly didn't think that would be the case coming into this season. We thought the Titans would be going in the opposite direction from the Derrick Henry years and Mike Vrabel, et cetera. We figured Brian Callahan comes in, new pass receivers, new offensive line. Okay, we're going to see them throw the ball, with regularity and with production. Not so much, and I think as a result, that they are back to being a running team, and if they don't run the ball well, it does not set them up well for the pass right now.
Is some of that, that ideology, I guess, shift, if you will, kind of back into the run? Is that just an issue with we just can't flat out pass block well enough to get the deep ball going? And Callahan's now adjusting to what he has. I'm curious, kind of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely one of the factors. They have been able to run block fairly well. Pass blocking has continually been a challenge. To their credit, the 2 games before this one, the Titans only allowed up 1 sack. But I think part of that, against Miami, they were running the ball very well. Didn't really need to pass much in that game. And then in the Indy game, we saw them, a lot of quick passes, get out pretty quick. So I'm not sure we could take from that there were huge improvements in the pass protection game. I think it's still a situation where when the Titans have to be in a drop back situation, need longer yardage, they really have trouble protecting the passer. And as a result, are leaning more on that running game. And it's become such a priority, and teams are recognizing it and just not really fearing the Titans' deep passing game. And yeah, you touched on another point as well. If you're going to get some of those long shots down the field, you need a split second more. And if your offensive line isn't holding up well, it's difficult to call too many of those plays. You're not going to expect a whole lot of success out of them.
John Glennon of the Nashville Post joining us here on Main Street Sports today. And John, to kind of wrap up everything that you've said about the offense, particularly in the second half of the Sunday loss at Buffalo, I saw something somewhere. Tennessee's net gains on first down in the second half were for 0 yards. I mean,
yeah,
when you're starting 2nd and 10, somebody said that you would have been just as well by just spiking the ball on first down each first down play in the second half. That does not bode well.
No, it doesn't. And second downs weren't especially great either. I mentioned that the stat earlier. I think the Titans had 8 third down opportunities in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And on 5 of them, they faced 3rd and 8 or longer. When you're just allowing Buffalo's pass rushers to tee off, it's not a good thing. We saw, especially on the right side of the Titans' offensive line, which for almost the entire game was right tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere facing off with Greg Rousseau, the Bills. Greg Rousseau wound up with 6 quarterback hits in that game, which is a pretty incredible figure. And again, a testament both to Petit Frere's struggles and the fact that they were in so many obvious passing situations and had to try and hold up a little bit longer. So I think in order, to have any real success in the passing game at this point, they need to stay out of those obvious drop back situations. That requires much better success on the early downs. We saw that in the first half, which is why the Titans had 10 points on 2 solid drives. Not so much in the second half, which is why they went nowhere.
All of that said, how troubling is it that this deep into the season, you're still bringing in offensive tackles for trials? Yadni Kajust, and I don't know if I'm either of those anywhere close to accurately, but a guy who did not play at all in 2023, was not active with an NFL team in 2023, came in today for a tryout, according to John Glennon of the Nashville Post.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess this falls under the category of leave no stone unturned in looking for a solution to the right tackle issue. Thus far, we've already seen this season, guys going from inactive to starting a couple different times. Jalen Duncan actually started this week and only was in for a series before he got hurt, but he'd been inactive. Leroy Watson had been inactive. He got his first start. Things obviously did not go well because he went right back to inactive. And in between, we've got kind of the troublingly consistently poor play of Nicholas Petit Frere, a third-round draft pick, who's got some of the worst numbers in the league at right tackle in terms of pass pro this year. So, Brian Callahan has mentioned John Ojukwu, who got a lot of first-team reps actually during the offseason when Petit Frere was out of action. He is a potential option, and as you mentioned, Yadni Kajust. He was on the back in the day. I want to say 2019. I think he was the third-round pick of the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Played in maybe I want to say 5 games. I don't have the number in front of me. And then he was on the practice squad of the Giants all last year. Eventually went to IR, I think, in training camp this year, and then he got his release. So I guess credit to the Titans for again poring over all possible options, but certainly very troubling that they are at this point. And perhaps. Certainly, you have to wonder, with the coaching staff, and I know it's more difficult to get an idea of offensive line play and training camp, and for that matter, in the preseason too.
Right.
But did they not have a solid idea that they were they had such a gaping deficiency at right tackle? Should something have been done before this year in order to shore up that position?
And here's the thing, John. I mean, if there was anybody on the street that could help you, they wouldn't be on the street, would they?
Yeah, that's exactly it. One solution that was sort of bandied about and made a bit of sense. You remember the name Chris Hubbard, who played right tackle for the Titans and did pretty decently last year before he got hurt. Well, he was on the 49ers practice squad for a while this year, and it certainly seemed as if, hey, why not pluck Chris Hubbard from the 49ers practice squad, add him to the roster? Certainly, what he showed last year for the Titans seemed to be better than what anybody was giving the team this year. I believe he is no longer an option. I believe that he has since signed. He has been signed by another team off the 49ers practice squad. So really right now you're either looking at somebody off the street or you're looking at somebody on another team's practice squad. And again, same question that you asked about players on the street. There's a reason that most of these guys are on somebody's practice squad instead of not being on their 53. So tough to find a lot of solutions, not a target-rich environment at this point.
No, not at this point. It certainly doesn't seem that way. Also, John, kind of making matters worse, how agonizing was it for the Titans fans to watch Marcus Mariota come off the bench and light it up for the Commanders? 18 of 23 for 205 and a touchdown. They put up 40 points, a number that the Titans offense can only dream of these last several seasons. And Mariota looked pretty good back there.
He really did. I think I want to say in terms of expected points above average, I think he was the top quarterback in the league over games last weekend. So good for Marcus. You know, I like to see him have success. He certainly had a very up and down career ever since leaving the Titans, and really, you know, towards the end with the Titans as well, obviously. So good on him, but yeah, it doesn't. You know, Titans fans, I'm sure there's all sorts of mixed reactions when they see guys like, you know, Marcus have a good game, or obviously if anybody was watching Monday Night Football last night and Derrick Henry ran for about another 500 yards, it seemed like in a single game, and you know, is looking like he's going to have, if he's not hurt and he keeps this pace up, he's going to have his best season ever with the Ravens, as opposed even more so than the 2,000-yard season he had with the Titans. So Titans fans are probably in a difficult predicament. Hey, great, we like you guys. I'm so happy you're doing well. Versus, why aren't they maybe still in uniform? And you know, why are we stuck at 1-5?
And to that point, and kind of to our previous discussion, it makes it kind of really painful because Mariota obviously comes in, has success, but some rankings, you know, Pro Football Focus has the Commanders. They're not exactly the best offensive line in the NFL. I mean, they're, you know, right there in the 15 to 20-ish range. So we're talking the Titans, just a little improvement could potentially go a long way for this franchise, it feels like.
I think so too. You know, and it hasn't helped that Will Levis, you know, obviously still a young quarterback, is not played particularly well under pressure either. You know, I mean, every quarterback at times is going to have to deal with pressure, and Will Levis so far has put up some pretty poor numbers in those types of situations. So I think that factors into things as well. We all know he has made some very poor, a couple at least of very, very poor decisions while under pressure. But yeah, maybe as I say, you know, just a half second more. Who knows what more help that could give, especially to the downfield passing game. You give things half a second more to develop. Wide receivers half a second more to separate out there. You know, and things could be a different story. So as difficult as it is to kind of wonder or kind of believe and hope that maybe Will Levis will turn things around and potentially be a starter, you know, for a while, as difficult as that may be to believe right now, you'd still like to see him get a chance with better pass protection on a regular basis. I actually think it's a little bit better than last year, but that was a low bar from last year.
Say the least. John Glennon of the Nashville Post joining us here on Main Street Sports today. And with all of this gloom and doom as a backdrop, the Titans take on Detroit Sunday. Detroit, yeah. Super Bowl contender, Detroit. And when have we said that? I mean, this team is a juggernaut. They just defeated. Was that Minnesota's first loss?
Yep, gave them their first L.
There was.
So, I mean, Goff is in the MVP running right now.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think about.
Not this past offseason, but last preseason, in talking about the Detroit Lions, I made the statement, I'm not sure that I trust Jared Goff. Well,
I'm with you.
Just fit me with the dunce cap, obviously, but I'm not alone.
Yeah, everybody's blown away by what they're doing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of dunce caps that need to be handed out, I do believe, because, yeah, certainly he had not given us reason to believe that for a long run, for a long stretch. You know, we saw flashes from Jared Goff, but I don't think anybody really had confidence that he would really succeed, you know, for a good long stretch. And for whatever reasons, whether it's, you know, he's got a great offensive coordinator up there in Ben Johnson, he's got a great offensive line. You know, he's got some pretty good weapons around him too. but he's playing really well. I think I saw a stat that he's been over 140 in his NFL quarterback rating for 3 weeks in a row, and that's only been done 3 times in NFL history. Once was Roger Staubach, another was Kurt Warner in '99, and I think Aaron Rodgers in 2011. So pretty good company right now for Jared Goff. And maybe the Titans catch a slight break. The fact that Jamison Williams is apparently going to be suspended. The Detroit Lions deep threat wide receiver suspended 2 games for performance-enhancing a violation. And then, of course, Aiden Hutchinson, their great edge rusher, is done for the regular season, at least, with, I believe, a broken leg. So, maybe that evens things up a little bit, but I think the Titans certainly face a huge challenge. They're almost a 2-touchdown underdog in going up to Detroit. So if you're looking for a get-well game for the Titans, you may have to wait another week for the New England Patriots to come to town.
I mean, on any given Sunday, clearly.
Yeah.
But, this certainly does not seem to be said Sunday for the 1-5 Titans. John Glennon of the Nashville Post joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, and sharing some insight. John, man, we appreciate your time, and bundle up if you go to Bridgestone. I mean, you're a veteran, but the few times I have gone to Predators games, and I have consistently underdressed, and so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, you're right. They do keep things rather brisk in there. I guess.
Understandably so, but
a little chilly.
Yeah, I mean, when you play on ice, I guess you kind of have to be mindful of that kind of thing. But
seems important.
Yeah, exactly. It does seem important. Yeah, John, we appreciate it, man.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right. John. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports today, we will continue NFL talk again. John kind of broke us into it. King Henry with another big game last night. And his quarterback did too.
Ooh, mama.
Yeah. Among other things. Stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you. No matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In the final segment of today's show, we will bring you our top 5, or maybe bottom 5.
Yeah.
Crowd moments. Again, if you are wondering what inspired today's topic, we'll tell you about it in the final segment as well. But yeah, crowd moments will be our top 5 Tuesday topic at the end of the show. Stick around for that. Monday Night Football. Again, we got a double dose last night, and one dose was a little tougher, as John Glennon mentioned in the last segment. One dose was probably a little tougher for Tennessee Titans fans to take than the other. Derrick Henry, 169 rushing yards on 15 carries. I think he ran for a touchdown and caught a touchdown pass as well. One of 5 touchdown passes for Lamar Jackson in the 41-31 win over Baltimore. So I'm sorry, over Tampa Bay. The Ravens are rolling. And I think it has to be a little bit easier for Tennessee Titans fans to take Derrick Henry's success, knowing that he would not be coming close to this if he was in the two-tone blue.
Yeah, and I'm going to protect their identity, but I had a season ticket holder that texted me last night, said, I can't believe I'm rooting for the Ravens tonight. And I was like, hey, I support the Titans, but when this signing went down, I said, that is a great fit for the Ravens. That is a great fit for Henry. The Titans were not in a position to financially really keep him. They kind of did him a solid by letting him test the waters in his own right. And to your point, yeah, there's no way even the King would be able to produce the numbers. He was largely bottled up, though, in the first half, and it was wild. They kept showing him on the sidelines, and that's a mean-looking dude, and they kept showing him, and he's got this look on his face like, where are my carries? Where are my carries? And it kind of became a thing, and then, boom, he pops free on the 81-yard. I mean, he had over nearly half of his yards on the one carry. That's just how explosive he still is. And didn't rush for a touchdown, but he did get that great catch later in the game to finally get in the end zone. That offense is absolutely rolling. Monken's calling great plays yet again. And the wild thing, though, is early in the game when Tampa Bay is up 7-0 and they're in the red zone, Henry's already been bottled up. Things don't look good. If Tampa Bay had gone up 14-0, I think it might have been close to a knockout blow because the Ravens still, even in their current construct, in my opinion, are not built to really come from behind. You can't turn and hand it to Henry 3 straight carries when you're trailing 14-0, or even obviously beyond that. So it was dangerously close to going in Tampa Bay's favor. And then all that did was tick the Ravens off something to the tune of 34 unanswered points. And then they just really got rolling. That's how explosive they can be. I mean, think about how efficient Lamar was last night. 17 of 22, 281, and 5 touchdowns.
To 4 different receivers.
4 different receivers. He ran pedestrian numbers by his marks, 9 carries for 52 yards. They are the true Swiss Army knife, that tandem there. And, I mean, Andrews finally gets back in the mix. He became the franchise all-time receiving touchdown guy last night with those 2 touchdowns. He had kind of gone AWOL for dating back to his injury last season. They are really clicking right now on all cylinders.
Tampa Bay falls to 4-3 with the loss. And as if that weren't enough, Mike Evans goes out with a hamstring injury. Chris Godwin goes out with what has been diagnosed as a dislocated ankle. So Baker Mayfield's top two weapons in the passing game, one is slowed, one is out.
Yeah, and that's a tough deal for the Buccaneers, right? Because I get you want to win that game, but you have the Falcons next week in your division, and Evans was already kind of dicey going into that game. Should you play him? Should you not? He gets the touchdown on the first drive, and everybody's like, okay, he looks pretty good, but boom, he goes out. And then late in the game is pretty much over. The Ravens already taken their starters out, and they keep Godwin in there, and that was a horrific injury. Didn't even show the replay. The players didn't even turn to watch because they knew it was a bad injury from the jump. And so, now your two top targets are out for a division that is still very winnable, but man, you're going to have to scrape the bottom of the barrel in terms of your options.
Yeah, they are definitely limited on the perimeter with those two guys out. Tough sequence of events for the Buccaneers in that 41-31 loss at home.
Yeah, tough loss. And Evans last night, he became the 11th player with 100 catches. And like I said, everything is looking good. They are rolling. And he nearly even had 101 later in the second quarter, but then he comes out with that injury. They are in a real weird spot. Bucky Irving has been great. He ends up getting a late touchdown for him on the ground. But Baker is going to have to get real creative going forward because that is a loss, as Joe Buck said last night, a loss that feels like more than a loss, if that makes sense, because those two guys are the lifeblood of that offense with Baker.
The thing is, Baker has been nothing if not creative throughout his career. I mean, just the fact that he still got one has been pretty creative for one thing. But, I don't necessarily count that guy out.
No, and I mean, they have a couple serviceable, Sterling Shepard gets a catch late in the game after the injuries to kind of get them back, but they still don't have that guy. We mentioned that the 49ers are potentially shopping for a wide receiver. Now the Buccaneers seemingly will be entering this market. And there's a franchise close to Nashville that is probably going to be shopping at least one of those, perhaps.
Quite possibly. In the undercard, as it were, to the Ravens Buccaneers, even though it was a late game, I said yesterday that I was kind of intrigued by Kyler Murray on a national stage. Well, he went for a 44-yard touchdown and set up the game-winning field goal as Arizona defeated the Chargers 17-15, yielding a Monday night split for the Harbaugh family.
Yeah, and we talked about it yesterday, that Arizona, if you get good Kyler, they would have a decent – we said it was to be an ugly game, and it was an ugly game.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers don't even score a touchdown. That's how ugly it was. Think about that. Herbert throws for nearly 350 yards, and they don't score a touchdown. Kyler was not absolutely at his elite top of the NFL best, but that was enough to get the win. And so the fact he didn't turn it over, but just the one interception was huge for them. And in a game that turned into a slugfest as early as the second quarter, props to Arizona for winning a slugfest. That's not a franchise that has really, over the years, won those type of games, and they kind of bullied the bully in the sense last night. Good win for them versus the Chargers.
Yeah. We talked about receiver situations in San Francisco. Well, part of the reason for the 49ers demise, apparently Deebo Samuel has pneumonia or something that looks like pneumonia. He was hospitalized yesterday.
Yeah, he played a couple snaps and then promptly came straight out of the game. And, talk about the Buccaneers and their situation, playing the Chiefs, rematch of the Super Bowl, and then you lose Ayuk and Deebo in pretty short order. And the 49ers, therefore, were pretty pedestrian. Yeah, they've got a lot of things going on. And as much as Mahomes we've seen do this year and in previous years make magic, make a little chicken salad with a pretty subpar receiving core, I don't know that Purdy is capable of such true magic like Mahomes. So the 49ers, they're going to be scrapping and clawing. They're good enough to win a lot of games still going forward in my mind, but it's not going to be easy. Every game that they're in is going to be a dogfight, especially if those two guys are limited.
Well, those two guys are limited. Juwan Jennings has
yeah,
got a hip situation. Christian McCaffrey still isn't back yet. They are really getting thin.
Their top receiver was Pearsall, who got shot 6 weeks ago. Think about that. At that point in the game, that's what Purdy was kind of targeting. And he didn't lean on Kittle as much. Kittle's a great tight end. But yeah, they are in a dire spot in terms of their playmaking ability.
Speaking of dire, with the loss of Deshaun Watson, Cleveland has picked up former Western Kentucky standout Bailey Zappi, who had been on the Chiefs practice squad. Picked him up, signed him to their 53-man roster, so he will be in the mix along with DTR and Jameis Winston. Apparently, Dorian Thompson-Robinson has a finger injury that limited him against Cincinnati. So Jameis looks like he will be the starter against Baltimore, but if DTR can't go, then Zappi will be the backup. So good for him being back on a 53.
Yeah, back in the mix. The Browns, we talked about it on the show yesterday. They are in as bad of a situation as the Titans are, and they lose Callahan, the offensive line guru. Their offensive line has absolutely crumbled this year. They're one of the worst in the league as well, and it doesn't matter, kind of almost eerily similar to the Titans. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is, other than maybe Winston, who talk about magic dust. He can just, as the emergency quarterback, comes in and goes 5 of 11 with the late touchdown, their only offensive touchdown, second touchdown behind Chubb. Having Chubb back helps, but yeah, they're sitting there at 1-6. Their season is pretty much over, and props to Zappi for latching on, because that is a ugly situation, especially if DTR is out for quite a bit.
Without question. You know, as much as people like to trash Jameis, though, he tends to make good things happen.
Well, it's like I famously said one time about Fitzpatrick when he was with the Titans. And it follows with Levis, and it follows with Winston. He's going to make something happen. And you just got to, I mean, if your team is 1-6, at least give me the possibility of a cool deep pass that could go for a touchdown. And Winston is in that mold. He will make something happen. And Fitzmagic had it in Nashville. I mean, he will make something happen. It may not always be good, but something's going to happen. And for franchises that are in the muck like these guys, it's kind of what you got to cling to.
When I was at MTSU, the late Bruce Stewart was the men's basketball coach. We had a guy named James Johnson as point guard. Now, this is in the early/mid 80s. Magic Johnson. Bruce would call James Johnson Tragic Johnson because he was going to kill somebody. Maybe it's the other team. Maybe it's us. But to your point about Jameis, he's going to do something, and it's going to be worth watching. Yeah.
Could throw for 300, could throw 4 interceptions. I mean, that's just kind of what you got. And when you're 1-6, at least you got a hope of 4 touchdowns.
It's going to be exciting either way.
Yeah, 100%. I'll take it.
High risk, high reward. Jacksonville wins in London, 32-16. Doug Peterson gets to come back stateside.
Yep.
But apparently the 2-5 record of the Jaguars did not impress NBC. The Jacks Philadelphia Sunday night football game on November 3rd has been flexed to Colts Vikings.
A little better. The Colts have a murderer's row of a schedule. That's part of it. So you presume they might be in bad shape by then. But yeah, that's at least a better move.
And it's unfortunate because obviously that Jaguars-Eagles game kind of has that Doug Peterson
connection
storyline and everything, and they would have loved that, but not at 2-5.
Maybe, yeah, and maybe said, we're not willing to risk him still being the coach by the time we get around to that game. He did survive London, but there's no guarantees after that.
Yeah, no. Meanwhile, again, New England falling 32-16 in that ball game, after which first-year coach Gerard Mayo refers to his defense as soft. Later said they're not soft, they're playing soft, but former coach Bill Belichick decides to weigh in and say they're not soft. And at that point, to me, it doesn't become a question of whether they are or they're not. The question becomes, why is he undermining the new coach?
Well, because he's getting paid to do so.
And there you
go. Is the short answer. But yes, to your point, yeah, it's like, what do you stand to gain from that other than, it's not as if Mayo is threatening his legacy just yet with this record, this start they've gotten off to. But, and listening to a couple different podcasts this week, they're talking about the Patriots, and, Belichick would never have said this or never done this. I guarantee you he has said that, whether he publicly, I'm almost willing to bet some of the Brady Super Bowl-led teams at some point were challenged by Belichick. And, so Mayo, I'm willing to chalk it up kind of like Callahan the first couple of weeks. Said a few things, and maybe I perhaps shouldn't have said it, or I said it a way that I didn't necessarily mean. That's part of becoming a head coach, right? And so it is a tough situation for them. And if you're looking for cheap tickets, them and the Titans next week should be a real dandy in Nashville.
Oof. Hour number one of Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, is in the books. When we come back for hour number 2 to the Lee Company Studios, we'll be joined by Mike Patton talking a little TSU. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilai Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely, coming to you from the Lee Company Studios here in Columbia as we continue to progress here in the studio?
We're moving right along, both on the show and in the studio, and it's always good to be up here. And we're kind of getting that comfy feeling a little bit, you know, a little cozy.
Yeah, starting to feel a little bit more at home,
if you will. And we're delighted to be here. And Tuesday is off and running. We've already broken down a lot. There's still a lot to get into in this second hour.
Absolutely. And to help us get into it, we welcome in Mike Patton, veteran Nashville freelancer. Among his various hats is one as podcast host of Touring the AFC South, where he takes a look at the Titans, Jaguars, Colts, and Texans on a regular basis. But right now, he's going to help us kind of take a look at this Tennessee State football team that cracked the FCS coaches top 25 poll this week for the first time since 2017. Mike, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, fellas. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining us, man. Hey, again, TSU with a 27-14 win up at Howard this weekend, spoiling the Bison's homecoming festivities, gets into the Stats Perform FCS Coaches Poll at number 25 this week. One of two Big South / Ohio Valley Conference teams in the poll, one of two historically black colleges and universities in the poll, improving to 6-2 with their fourth straight victory with that win. And again, coming in at number 25. What do you like about this team right now?
What I like about this team is they don't seem to buckle under any pressure. I'll give you a prime example. In the Howard game, Howard scores a touchdown, and the game gets close. And of course, game pressure is put on Tennessee State University. With that happening, what ended up happening next was a kick got returned for a touchdown, and that basically is how they've done all season. They basically handled the pressure. When situations got tight, things like that, they've handled that pressure very well. They've scored or came back to win games when it seemed like maybe the pressure of the moment had been too much for them, which speaks to their veteran leadership that they have on this team.
Specifically, C.J. Evans answered that Howard touchdown that cut it to 20-14 in the third by going 99 yards with the ensuing kickoff, scoring, making it 27-14, which was the final score. For that, CJ is the current Big South / OVC Special Teams Player of the Week. The redshirt senior is. So average 50 yards on 3 kickoff returns, added 21 punt returns yards, 20 rushing, 19 receiving. Speaking of Swiss Army knives. Ooh. So he slept well on the flight back from D.C., I dare say. Evans, one of 2 conference honorees this week. Freshman Sanders Ellis was the co-freshman of the week, had 7 total tackles, 5 solos, 1.5 for loss, and a half sack. So big performance for the 6'2", 225-pound linebacker for the Tigers in that win as well. Again, TSU has matched its 6 wins from last year and has itself, firmly in the mix for a Big South / OVC championship as we speak right now. They're 3-1 in the conference behind 4-0 Southeast Missouri State. So got to be pleased with the job that Coach George is doing over there right now.
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely got to give credit to all of these players, different players coming in from different places. I mean, C.J. Evans was at, I believe, Austin Peay last year, and he's now with Tennessee State. And
they could use it.
Jaden McGill was actually with, I think he was in junior college I mean, you have all these different players. Jalal Dean, he actually played for Tennessee Tech last year as one of their starting wide receivers. So they brought in all these different players, and they've been able to meld all these players together around the people that have been there for a while, like Adrenaline Ellis, like Karate Brinson as well. And then also you have the young freshman Sanders Ellis, who is stepping right in and doing his thing at linebacker and doing it quite well, I might add.
Yeah, it's almost, I guess, at this point, Mike, the lay of the land. I mean, you've got to. We had last week, and we talked about the way he has had to kind of rebuild the TSU men's basketball roster. This is just, I guess, it's business as usual at this point with the transfer portal being what it is. You've got to be able to meld guys together in a short period of time because that's what you're going to have.
That's right. That's right. And the difference is, I would say, between basketball and football, though. Basketball, of course, you can flip over your entire roster. And, you know, you basically going to flip over your entire roster from time to time at, you know, depending on where you are and what level you're at. With football, the best thing to do is you have your players there, and then you also have bringing your transfer portal guys to kind of accentuate what you have on your team, which I think this year is probably the perfect mixture of Eddie George being able to have some players stick around and stay, and then accentuate them with either freshmen or some transfer portal guys.
Yeah, Mike, and that's kind of what exactly what I wanted to ask you is this this record a function of this being a special group that has kind of came together, or do you sense finally in his fourth year that Eddie George has kind of turned a corner in your mind as far as coaching and building that program there? I'm curious, or is it either in your mind?
Well, I think it's a combination. Honestly, I think he's kind of turning the corner in some aspects, but I will say, I've said this before, that he's turned the corner, and then, you know, all heck break loose, and they lose like what, 3 of their last 4 or something of that nature, and the record doesn't look as impressive. Like last year, they were at a point where they were, you know, playing very well, and then lost a few games down the stretch. Still had a winning season, but lost a few games down the stretch. So, you know, it's definitely this group melding together because of the veterans that have been there for a while, but also I believe it's him turning a corner, especially with his offense. Even though they haven't necessarily run the ball consistently this year, they have ran the ball when they needed to. And they've also they have a slew of running backs as well, led by Jaden McGill with 280 yards, and then CJ Evans with 204. But they have like 4 or 5 running backs they can go to. They have 4 or 5 different wide receivers that can play, and they've had 1 quarterback this year. That is the key number. Last year they rotated quarterbacks. This year it's Draylen Ellis, and Draylen Ellis is the quarterback and leader of this team.
As they kind of have moved along, it seems like they certainly got a lot of momentum. You know, a perhaps expected or justified loss when you go to North Dakota State and catch an L there. But other than that, the blemish against Tennessee Tech, these guys are playing pretty well. And I'm curious now, is this going to be a good bye week? Because you obviously want to keep that momentum rolling. And I guess I'm curious, you know, how do they use this bye week, because they have a big home game coming up against UT Martin next Saturday?
Well, this bye week is all about getting healthy, making sure everyone gets healthy, the bumps and the bruises, get off your feet. It's coming in good in that aspect. The other aspect it's not coming in good is, of course, they're going to lose a little momentum before they play against UT Martin. Now, I will say, not only do they have UT Martin down the stretch, they have Southeast Missouri, which is the team leading the OVC/Big South. So that's going to be interesting to see how they're able to maintain the momentum going down the stretch in these last 4 games. So they have, UT Martin, they have Western Illinois, Gardner-Webb, and then they also have SEMO as the last game. So the last game of the season could potentially be for the OVC crown should they win out.
What's going to be interesting is how Mike Patton behaved himself during the UT Martin Tennessee State game as a UTM graduate.
Dual allegiances there.
Yeah, so that's a little side note there, by the way.
Also played football there for him too.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So
You'll be justified either way. I understand.
It's a win-win situation,
Yeah.
right, Mike?
Well, it's probably a be quiet situation for me. I'll just sit and watch.
You talk about Draylon Ellis, the quarterback for Tennessee State, and he has really stabilized that position pretty much throughout his tenure since he transferred in from Austin Peay. He's shared it with other guys at various points and kind of stayed the course, I guess, and now he's getting the payoff.
He definitely is. I mean, during his time at Tennessee State, I would say he's been kind of a guy that makes some spectacular plays, and he makes some plays that make you scratch your head. Like he'll spin around and throw one, and it throws it right to the defender, and I'm like, okay, what just happened there? But then he'll come back there, drop back, and he'll drop a dime deep, like he did to Jalal Dean and caught one-handed against Eastern Illinois for the touchdown. So, he's kind of been up and down. But this year, he's been more up than down, and I think that's primarily because he knows he's the quarterback of this team. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder for anybody, and you can just see when he's on the field, they pay attention and look towards him. When it comes to crunch time situations, they look towards him to make the plays or to put them in the right positions to win or come back in a game, and that speaks to the ultimate trust that Eddie George has in Draylon Ellis this season. And I've got to say, definitely I've enjoyed watching Draylon Ellis play and the maturation of him over his time at Tennessee State. And it's definitely a credit to him because, of course, he could have went somewhere else for his last year to play football. But he decided to stick it out, stay at Tennessee State, and now he's reaping the benefits of that.
As you look at the Big South OVC conglomeration, for lack of a better phrase, I guess, and you look at the FCS landscape as a whole, Mike, is this a one-bid league in terms of postseason play? Does TSU have to win this league to get into the playoffs? Do you feel like they have a shot as an at-large? Should they, not close out by running the table here?
Honestly, I think they have to play it like it is a one-bid league. You don't want to leave anything to chance when it comes to the playoffs or anything. Do I think this is a one-bid league? Looking at the landscape, no, I don't think it is. But what I think compared to what they actually choose is two totally different things. I'd rather take it. I'd rather take it into my hands and put it in somebody else's hands and let them figure it out.
Mike, I'm also curious the vibes around campus. We got the bye week, but we'll be at home. Big game versus UT Martin. How can Coach George and this squad kind of further the morale on campus and maybe try and hopefully get a big swell behind these guys down the stretch? Or have they already done that?
Well, I will say this. They need to take the energy that was in Howard and move it to Nissan, because there was a ton of Tennessee State alums that were actually at the Howard University homecoming, which is their 100th homecoming, by the way. And basically they called it Tennessee State Homecoming 2.0 is what everyone was calling it up there, because they literally took over the Howard Hotel. They took over the field. They took over basically DC streets. Yes. So I'm wondering how they're going to be able to get that energy down to Nissan Stadium. But, I think some of that energy comes. Yes. Just keep winning, and that energy will come. I still remember when I was a freshman at Tennessee Martin and I played against Tennessee State, and that whole lower bowl was full. There was not a seat to be missing in there. So I can say I can see that happening, but the only way to for sure make that happen is win. Just keep winning games. If you win, they will come.
That said, Mike, and you've been around it, we've been around it long enough, TSU Howard, huge HBCU rivalry matchup there. TSU UT Martin, not so much. When you talk about trying to bring that environment and that momentum back from Howard to Nissan for this game, there are some built-in impediments to that, are there not?
Oh, there definitely are. And some of those built-in impediments, unfortunately, come from either TSU alums, TSU students, or Nashville residents. Because it seems to me, I've actually spoken to people, and it's every excuse in the world why not going to a Tennessee State game. Even when they're winning, oh, they're not playing anybody. Oh, and they lose. Oh, you see, they lost. Or something. It's always a different reason, except for you're missing the biggest reason, which is to support these young men that are out there playing and giving their all for Tennessee State University, a university that you love or say you love and that you learned from or that you grew up at. And that's where I think the biggest impediment comes from, is just people doing those type of things. And I know that's probably not the most popular thing to say, but I'm just going to say it because, I mean, I literally hear it and see it all the time.
Mike Patton, Nashville freelance journalist. Again, you can hear his podcast touring the AFC South, but he also keeps an eye on Tennessee State. The Tigers next take the field
November
2nd at Nissan against Big South / Ohio Valley Conference. I think that should be Ohio Valley Conference / Big South.
Yep.
Right.
Rival UT Martin, 5 o'clock kickoff. Be there.
Definitely be there.
Yeah. Mike, we appreciate your time, man, and look forward to catching up with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mike.
When we continue here on Main Street Sports today, we will get into the grab bag in our next segment. In our final segment, it's Top 5 Tuesday. We will get into crowd moments, and we'll tell you why soon. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
He shoots, and he scores!
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In the final segment of the show, we will bring you our top 5 crowd moments as we wrap it up with Top 5 Tuesday. But right now, we'll dive into the grab bag. Let's start with some hoops. The Knicks visit the Boston Garden tonight as the Celtics receive their NBA championship rings to open the season. Trying to set the tone for going back-to-back, I guess.
Yeah, going to be a fun game tonight. Knicks played so well last season. They didn't have to sell the Knicks fans. They were already on board, but kind of got the public, thinking, man, maybe they can make a run at this thing. And just ran out of gas down the stretch. Now they have the cats on the town, as it were, tonight as they get ready to kind of see how their season unfolds. I think it'll be a pretty ugly game. Seems like the tip-off game, there's just so much emotion at stake, right? I mean, everybody's fired up, and it's the first game. So think about that. You have the biggest game of the entire season at this point, and it's also your first real game. So, I mean, it's bound to kind of maybe disappoint from an aesthetic standpoint, but I think it'll be fun and entertaining as the first one this evening.
Yeah, I think the new look Knicks is kind of a storyline here, even as the Celtics are getting their rings.
Yeah, and so either way, the NBA execs I think will be excited tonight because if the Knicks win, look out, they're going 82-0, and it will be epic tonight. And yeah, this roster and the way that they played last year, man, it feels like anytime we give an ounce of expectation to them historically, they have not delivered. So I'm fascinated to see how they unfold this year. Boston, meanwhile, had maybe one of the most underrated seasons of all time, if it were somehow possible, 90-plus wins. And kind of almost still feels like we didn't give them enough praise. So if they win tonight, they kind of restore a little balance. But I think it'll be a good one to kick us off.
In the second game tonight, there's only 2 tonight. But speaking of Cat, his former team, the Timberwolves, travel to L.A. taking on Bronny James and the Lakers.
Yep, and I made the joke with a buddy earlier. It's good, this game could get ugly, and good for the Lakers that, the first game. We'll get to see Bronny, I think, in some capacity tonight, and it's probably not necessarily a great thing for the Lakers, if you catch my drift there.
He's going to play, and he's going to play early, get him and Daddy on the floor at the same time and, kind of get that over with.
We are joking, but the spread is only 1.5. Minnesota's only favored by 1.5, so maybe it'll be a pretty good game. Coaching debut for Redick tonight. We'll get a chance to see if their offense is, revitalized a little bit. We saw LeBron have such a great Olympics in kind of that maestro role. Does he continue to kind of take a step back and more of a facilitator role? Because if they have the role players producing, like Connect, who we just mentioned last week, if those guys continue to play well, maybe LeBron does, say, all right, I can step the gas off a little bit and save it for when it really matters.
Mm-hmm. The Grizzlies open their season tomorrow night out at Salt Lake City, taking on the Jazz. They continue on the road Friday against Houston before finally getting to FedEx Forum on Saturday for their home opener against the Magic. So it's a little deflating. Season opens on Tuesday night, but they don't get a home game till Saturday?
Don't get one till Saturday, and they may not get Jaren Jackson till Saturday either. He's already pretty much ruled out, not officially, but he's probably not going to play tomorrow night. So Utah, not the greatest team. 2 years ago, they got off to a really good start in the year they were trying to tank. So it won't be an easy game for Memphis on the road, especially without Jaren Jackson Jr. So, yeah, would be nice to get back in the grindhouse a little earlier, but they'll have to wait for the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. We have talked at length about the Women's National Basketball Association throughout the course of this historic season. And apparently the participants in said historic season heard somebody say, strike while the iron is hot.
Mm-hmm.
WNBA players opt out of current CBA. The players made the decision to opt out of the last collective bargaining agreement to realign the business and save the league from its own limitations, according to an article on yahoosports.com. This agreement was reached in 2020. Now, it won't impact the 2025 season, but following that, anything goes. I guess, according to this, the current CBA is set to expire in 2027, but this agreement will be in effect for the 2025 season before a potential work stoppage. So, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, with the historic 2024 WNBA season now in the books, we look forward to working together with the players and the WNBPA on a new CBA that is fair for all and lays the foundation for growth and success for years to come. Engelbert said that yesterday in the aftermath of, again, that exciting 5-game championship series between the Lynx and the champion New York Liberty.
Savvy business move, it feels like, for the Players Association here. I mean, everything, this league is white hot right now. Everything is kind of trending in that direction. And so, to your point, strike while that iron is hot. Let's see how this plays out. We saw dramatic shifts in terms of just basic player needs and wants in terms of travel this year. Stuff that should have probably already been long addressed, but is finally coming around. And for a league that is finally, getting the shine that perhaps it deserves, this is a chance to maybe make a move here. Hopefully, obviously, nothing does end up happening in terms of a league stoppage. That would be the nightmare scenario, it feels like.
That would absolutely kind of be the nuclear option, and that does nothing in terms of, building on the momentum that they've built. And the last thing that you want to do is have a stoppage. They need to, as we talked to Megan L. Hall yesterday, they need to come back in 2025 and really keep this going and continue putting a fantastic product on the floor, and stepping away from the floor doesn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you're the folks at Disney and Amazon and NBC and you're like, oh, we just paid $200 million for this white hot league. Oh, what do you mean? There are no games. That would be kind of tragic. So they're reported to lose roughly $40 million this season, but you imagine that's going to change to the good in a big way when that deal does kick in 26. We're just hoping that we got players when that rolls around.
Absolutely. Prior to game 1 of the finals, Engelbert said this is going to be an opportunity to listen to one another and take this league to the next level for generations to come. I look forward to building the future of the league and sitting down with the players. I suspect that given the transformation of the league that we've been working so hard on, building this long-term economic model, we've already returned to the players through charter, through increasing playoff bonuses a couple of years ago by over 50%. So we'll continue to do that. And when we get to the bargaining table, we'll continue to talk about the issues that are most important to the players. So, sounds encouraging from the league office. We're open to listening and we want to treat them the way they need to be treated.
It feels like normally the leagues have a fair amount of capital and leverage in these situations, but it doesn't feel like this league is in that position. It feels like the players have quite a bit of, they're like, hey, we literally just set this league on fire here this year. We want our just pay and our just rewards here. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how it plays out.
It sounds like the league recognizes that.
Yeah, right. That's, I guess, where I was kind of going. It feels like this league kind of is, a little more amicable to those terms than perhaps we would see some other, not as much standoffishness in these early statements.
Yeah. Speaking of the WNBA, we had Megan on yesterday talking about what could be in the off season, and friend of the show, Willie Ramirez, texted me during the show, and I didn't see it till after, but he said, and I should have had this queued up, I apologize. Ask Megan what she thinks about Kelsey Plum, an unrestricted free agent, leaving Vegas to join Natalie at Golden State, since those two have always been close. Plum may be ready to be the face of a franchise. Natalie Nikhazy, former Las Vegas Aces assistant, recently named as the inaugural coach of the expansion Golden State Valkyries. And, maybe Kelsey Plum decides that it's time to get out of Aja Wilson's shadow and take over a program.
Yeah. For me, this is going to be an interesting situation because it feels like Kelsey Plum has obviously, she basically is a superstar, but yes, in that shadow of Wilson. And it's a question of her brand per se. Does she want to take that next step? There's a lot to like about staying in Vegas as well.
There's a lot to like about staying in Vegas, but Batman and Robin, do you want to be Robin?
I mean, and that's the question she's going to have to answer. She was drafted back when they were still the Silver Stars. I mean, that's all she's known thus far. And we've talked on the show about how Vegas kind of, we'll see how this plays out as far as the collective bargaining. They've skirted around the rules a little bit and kind of gotten away with. There's a reason they're a super team and one of only maybe 2 or 3 super teams in the league. The way they've kind of hidden some money, some people speculate. So, does that play in the factor?
Every owner is not Mark Davis.
Correct. I mean, and
every team does not take that just win, baby approach.
I ran into him in May and I talked to him and he was more excited about the Aces potentially going back to back to back than it seemed like he was the Raiders in that brief conversation we had. And
understandably so.
Yeah, I guess so. So this is going to be fascinating. It could be fantastic for the WNBA in that sense. Boom, you got an immediate star with the Valkyries who are going to probably come in and, if they are sneaky and shrewd with their acquisitions in the expansion draft and depend on what they do in the regular draft, maybe an overnight, not going to say title contender perhaps, but, certainly could be frisky in their first season, especially if you have somebody – they're already, it sounded like what Megan told us yesterday, going crazy in that market.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in a person like Kelsey Plum. I mean, that just makes it that much easier in terms of your marketability, it seems like.
Yeah, will
be cool to see if they can pull that off.
It'll be something to keep an eye on, how they handle the expansion draft and that kind of thing, who you make available or who you make teams make available for it and that kind of thing. That's going to be intriguing. Continuing to dig into the grab bag. Apparently, Wade, all you have to do to win the Dodd Trophy Coach of the Week honor is beat Alabama.
Oh?
Because Clark Lee was named the Coach of the Week a couple of weeks ago after the Commodores defeated Alabama, and Josh Heupel is the current honoree following Tennessee's 24-17 victory this past weekend in Knoxville. So I am trying to find the list of winners. Between Lee and Heupel, it was Brian Kelly. So it's and before Lee, it was Mark Stoops. So apparently it's an SEC-oriented award. Sharon Moore did win it the last weekend in September. But so yeah, that's another feather in Coach Hype's cap. I guess.
Yeah, and talk about perfect timing. After a couple tough games, obviously losing to Arkansas, and not particularly playing their best brand of ball versus Florida, but you get the win. Somehow you stagger to victory in both of those games versus Florida and versus Alabama. Now you get a chance to rest this whole week, kick back, enjoy the spoils a little bit, get back to work, and try and get as healthy as possible, because you still got Kentucky out there, which we've had 2 or 3 different guests that have told us Kentucky is their least anticipated game over the course of this season. So it doesn't seem like it'll particularly be easy for Tennessee that night. You do get Mississippi State at home, which is nice. But really, obviously, everybody, at least the fans, are salivating, getting ready for mid-November when they get Georgia on the road. So a chance to kind of kick back and collect your breath here before this big stretch down the end.
For the record, your other winners were Brent Key in week 1 after Georgia Tech's win over Florida State. Thomas Hammock of Northern Illinois after their win over Notre Dame. Kansas State's Chris Kleiman won it in week 3. I'm not sure who Kansas State played that week. Hang on. Come on. After the Wildcats defeated number 20 Arizona.
Okay.
And then, like I said, Sharon Moore, followed by Stoops and Lee.
Hang on. So who did we say won 2 weeks ago?
Lee won 2 weeks ago. Brian Kelly won last week. LSU.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. Because Lanning with the win, it'd be funny. Hey, you can win the game and by your methods, or you can win Coach of the Week, and maybe that was enough to dissuade the voters for their win versus Ohio State.
That gamesmanship that he showed.
You can, yeah, and obviously we know which one he would prefer. But yeah, that's I'm curious on that.
Speaking of awards, we didn't have Chip this week. Obviously, he's on a bus.
You could have stopped right by here.
You would think.
Pull over.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you go from Murfreesboro to Jacksonville, though. You might go down 24 and across. So
I feel like we caught him going to basketball, and they might have I think they had traffic that day and went through like Chattanooga or some area.
Yeah. But Blue Raider receiver/returner Omari Kelly was named Conference USA Special Teams Player of the Week following his performance in MTSU's 14-5 win over Kennesaw State. That feels like it was forever ago. It was actually just last Tuesday night. Kelly had 151 all-purpose yards, 77 receiving yards on 6 catches, 74 punt return yards, 61 of which came on a touchdown return in the third quarter that sealed that 14-5 victory that sat at 7-2 forever, felt like. And, first punt return for a touchdown by an MTSU player in 3 years. Jalen Lane had one in September of 2021. He had only attempted 2 punt returns prior to Tuesday night. He had 4 against Kennesaw, again for 74 yards and the 61-yard touchdown. So congratulations to Omari Kelly, and hopefully he can continue his good work against Jacksonville State.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. We'll talk more about it tomorrow, but Jack State is
they're pretty salty.
Very sneaky, and them coming down the stretch, you hope obviously MTSU can pull off the win tomorrow, but if they don't, Jack State plays Liberty in 2 weeks, I think, which could be a de facto, elimination game in terms of the conference championship. So, yeah, it would be cool to see MT kind of throw a little spoil in there. It'd be fun to catch up with our boy tomorrow.
Absolutely. AP poll, we mentioned it yesterday while we were talking to John Bryce of footballscoop.com. Oregon ascends to number 1, following Texas is lost. Georgia bumps up 3 spots to number 2. I like that. That's well placed.
Graphic. And they included the Vanderbilt logo, which was initially, as folks were quick to point out on social media, not included.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was I got a couple Doors fans in my life that were not too happy with that. And then they were mad at me when I pointed out that, when Northern Illinois also cracked the top 25, they did not have a logo. And so he said, now you're comparing us to Northern Illinois? And I was like, well, in this case, yes, because you're both cracking the top 25 for the first time in ages.
So they didn't have a.
They didn't have it for a while. It was a couple hours probably. You know, the second you clicked on the article, it was not up. But
that's
and you know, screenshots live forever. So that was screenshotted immediately. And
screenshots live forever, particularly amongst Vanderbilt fans.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, Jake Donovan, my buddy down in Pulaski, was quick to point that out. He was hot. I got to see who he went after. Somebody. I don't think he went after the group, the AP itself. I think he had.
Well, this isn't the AP's graphic. I don't believe. I believe that's On3's graphic. To be honest.
Yeah. So this one's a little bit, and the AP is restored. I'm looking at it now, but initially it was not there.
Oof. Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, and Texas are your top 5. So 3 Big Ten entrants in the top 5. Southeastern Conference has 9 teams in the top 25, led by Georgia at number 2, Texas at number 5, Tennessee and LSU at 7 and 8. Iowa State down a spot to number 10. Indiana up 3 spots after that dismantling of Nebraska over the weekend, and goodness gracious. They were 2 spots apart in last week's top 25. I would not have thought that there was 7 touchdowns difference between those 2 teams.
No, IU rolled them, and Nebraska's all the way out of the poll. Received one vote from somebody in Omaha, and so as a result, Indiana. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be an interesting story.
They really are,
because they have a tricky game at home versus Washington. Then they got to go to Michigan State. They do get to host Michigan, who is not playing well at all and figures to be. But then they got Ohio State. So they got Michigan and Ohio State. Ooh, even better, though, for Indiana. They do get they get a bye week after Michigan. I was going to say, even as bad as Michigan is, that's a physical defense. But Indiana will get a bye week before Ohio State. So, I mean, we could be talking about the undefeated Hoosiers going into the shoe with a chance to really upset the apple cart.
Goodness gracious. Indiana is the 4th team out of the Big Ten in the top 25 at number 13. I mean, they've still got some work to do to get into the playoffs, but a lot of folks are kind of riding that. Also, Illinois at number 20. The top 25 looks a little different than in years past, for sure. So.
Yeah, this has been a fun season already. We're just reaching kind of over the halfway mark. Big game. I mentioned it to John briefly, but UNLV has fallen out of the top 25, despite the fact they, just lost the one game. But them and Boise this Friday night, that is going to be an electric game. Basically, elimination. It's kind of the new chic phrasing this year is these elimination games, because only one of those teams has a chance to go to the playoff, and it'll undoubtedly be the winner of that game, and a chance for Genty to further that Heisman. They still play at 9:30, even on a Friday night. They're still playing at 9:30, but a chance for at least a few voters to stay up and watch him.
9:30 on Friday night.
Yep.
So we can get home and see the second half. Of
oh yeah, yeah. Their schedule is. I think they were still playing at like 1:30 last week when they were absolutely throttling Hawaii, but I mean, nobody is staying up that late, I don't think, to check out a potential Heisman hopeful. This will be a fun one on Friday night in a big Power 5 matchup.
Bally Sports is now FanDuel Sports. Took effect yesterday. I'm not sure what exactly it means, but it seems that they have changed all their branding from Twitter all the way through. So just be aware of that. It's now FanDuel Sports.
Yeah, I think this is only in name, image, and likeness at the moment because nothing else really.
They're still doing business as usual.
Calling it business is borderline a misnomer there, what they're doing. But, yeah, they have rejected all their contracts. Here's one. They've rejected all their contracts of MLB teams except for the Braves. Their situation has been wild for the last couple of years because you have to have Bally Sports sells its own package, and even if you buy said package, you still can't watch the Braves. You have to have a tethered connection, whether it's DirecTV, I think, or Dish, one of the two has those, and Spectrum and some other groups. If you don't, so you basically can't watch the games unless you buy cable. Is the take home, which defeats the whole purpose of why they launch their streaming service.
Right,
so maybe this produces something long term, but for now it's kind of just in likeness. So if you're hunting your channels, it is at least a good cue card for some folks there, I think.
Let's take a quick break. Come back for the final segment of Main Street Sports Today, which will be Top 5 Tuesday, Top 5 Crowd Moments. Stay tuned after the break.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
We have reached the final segment of Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are coming to you from the Lee Company Studios here in Columbia, and it is time, without further ado, for Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Mid-South 5 Fitness. Two great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Whatever shape you're in, Thalos Steel will get you in a better one. You can find him online at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. Mid-South 5 Fitness bringing you Top 5 Tuesday. And again, if you've not figured it out, the fine folks at Texas were the inspiration for this week's Top 5 Tuesday topic. Top 5 crowd moments. And we use top 5 a little loosely, probably, but again, with no further ado, Wade, the floor is yours.
I got a list that is in a couple different realms. If you take one or two of mine, I'm going to really struggle here. But
same.
I got a couple different moments, and some are good in the sense that the crowd is excited and everybody's having fun and everybody's jovial when they leave. And I got some that are bad. So it could be a diverse list in that regard. But so I'll start with the good. And it's a little recency bias, but when the Vols rushed the field versus Bama the first time, they should not have rushed the field this Saturday. I'm in firm agreement with that. But when they rushed a couple years ago, vanquishing all those demons, number 1 versus number 2, things were just absolutely electric. It felt like a moment that even if you weren't there was bigger than football, and kind of felt like it was a nationwide event. And so that was an all-time crowd rush moment, and therefore I think it's an all-time crowd moment. That goes my number 1, and then Vols fans can't say I mistreated them, which is always safety is first and foremost on this show.
That was a feel-good moment. This was not. As a Braves fan, my initial reaction to this topic has to be the 2012 National League wild card game between the Braves and the Cardinals, where an infield fly was called to medium left field. And the Braves fans reacted not very well, probably, but I can certainly understand by throwing debris on the field to the point that stoppage of the game was threatened. So, that would be my number 1, Turner Field 2012.
That one was rough, and I remember vividly when that went down, just thinking, I wasn't watching the game. Giles County had actually beaten Fairview. They were playing Fairview that night at the Brickyard. And I remember just Twitter was just absolutely flooded with, you got to see this.
I missed it because I was at a high school game as well. I was over at Ensworth. I had stopped somewhere to watch it, and then I had to leave to go to the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, following it on Twitter,
it was bad. It was brutal. And we're in Columbia, so Mr. Ugla, yeah, back in the day. Good pull, number one. Number two for me, I'm gonna stay with the feel good for now. How about the beast quake from when Marshawn Lynch absolutely blew the roof off of the place? They say that it literally registered on the Richter scale. Now debating whether that was the crowd noise or his actual run, as he just absolutely lays the wood on all those Saints on the way to the end zone. Iconic run, iconic play, and literally registered an earthquake in the Northwest. The beast quake was my number two.
My number two, as long as we are, trying to maintain the feel-good aspect of this, our football fans do something really neat at the end of the first quarter of their home games. They turn and wave toward the Children's Hospital that is adjacent to Kinnick Stadium there in Iowa City. And, that's really cool. And acknowledging the inhabitants, the patients, the health workers, that kind of thing at that Children's Hospital doing some really great work, obviously. So that's my number two, the Hawkeye wave.
Yeah, that's one of the great college football traditions. It hadn't even been around that long, but that speaks to the level that it's already revered, because that is a cool moment. Up next for me, I know everybody remembers where they were, but it was Bash at the Beach when Hulk Hogan turned Hollywood. Hulk Hogan with the leg drop of doom on Randy Savage, and you talk about debris pelting the crowd and the wrestlers there in Daytona. When Hogan turns Hollywood and joins the NWO, forms the NWO, and going back and listening, those guys were legit kind of scared, because think about how wild that is. On one hand, you're scared for your life, but on the other hand, deep down, you're thinking, man, that was great, because that's how hot they got the crowd that night. When Hogan goes bad is my number three.
My number three, I'm going to go ahead and punch it right here. UT Ole Miss Neyland Stadium 2021, golf balls, mustard bottles. Enough said.
Yep, that one was right up on my list, and the Vols fans, perhaps not justifiable in necessarily throwing of the debris, but their outrage was certainly justifiable.
Yeah, they could have channeled it a little better.
Probably could have did a little better job on that one. Up next, Pander pick here, but we did mention the Grizzlies are playing tomorrow. I was in the house the night that Zebo hits a three-pointer. Think about what I just said. Zebo hits a three-pointer over Tim Duncan to eliminate the Spurs, giving Memphis their first ever playoff series win. And the fact that, or it's their first home playoff win in general. The fact that they did that and then eventually eliminated the Spurs kind of kicked off the grit and grind era. Cool moment. I don't know how there's still a roof on FedEx Forum after that.
Number four, real quick for me, Malice at the Palace back in 2004, Detroit hosting Indiana, fight spills into the stands, fan throws something at Ron Artest, and all hell continues to break loose. That's my number four. Your number five, quick.
Number five for me, Bautista with the bat flip. Toronto. Canadians going nuts. Give me Bautista in the postseason with a bat flip for the ages.
Number five for me, Vanderbilt rushing the floor at Memorial Gym after defeating then number one Florida. With
you and I both were at that game. I think we discussed before.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I did not rush the floor.
Neither did I. I was trying not to get run over. Hey, that's going to do it here for Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports Today. Come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We will be joined by Ann Kimmel of Assembly Box Radio and Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. It's going to be fun. We'll see you 2 o'clock tomorrow.